and welcome back to my channel where I am going to tell you about all the books that I read in September. September started off really well. Like I was on a hot streak. I was reading 50 pages a day. I was like really actively reading lunch, on the train, before sleeping. I was having a good time. And then I was on track to read like 10 books. Like hasn't happened in a long time. I was on track to excel this month. And then the last half of the month just kind of petered, and I will explain later on. But for now, let's just go with the books that I was actually able to finish. Which the first one is actually, I don't know why I'm looking down here. I don't have it because I read it via ebook. But so the first book was I decided to read because in the end of, what month was it? What's the month before September? August. In August, I read Dracula, and that sense of like classic adventure, thriller, fun. I just wanted more of that. So I picked up Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island. So I went from vampires to pirates and buccaneers and treasure and ships and islands, and I really had fun with that book. It was delightful, and it's just like the pirate story, right? Like a young boy who helps his family run their inn. One day, this really scary man comes in to stay, and he's just a drunkard, and he just basically drinks all day, and he's rowdy, and he's loud, and he's very intimidating, and they don't quite know what to do with him. And one by one, his old friends come to visit, although they're not really friends. We learned they're old crewmates that are trying to get a hold of the treasure that he has hidden on an island somewhere. The captain who is at the inn is killed one day, and the boy, feeling threatened, flees with his mother and grabs unknowingly the secret treasure map of this man, and it starts this great adventure where they sail off to Treasure Island to uncover his treasure. And it's just absolutely fantastic. All the characters have such amazing like individualities. They're very well constructed. They have their own sense of talking, their own personalities, their own histories, their own relations, their own fears, their own like angers and sense of deceit, camaraderie, all that stuff. They have all their own. They're just really super individual characters. We get to meet the famous Long John Silver's. I never knew Long John Silver came from Treasure Island, so to finally get to meet that character other than the fast food restaurant in the US was absolutely fantastic. And the adventure itself is just fun. It's easy to read. It's incredibly page turning. I would have to say, is it as fun as Dracula? For me, not as much. I think Dracula, there was definitely a bigger sense of tension and like thrilling suspense, and Treasure Island felt more like it was gonna follow a pattern. It felt more safe, I would say. Treasure Island definitely feels more safe than Dracula does, which means that you don't wonder like, is this character gonna die or not? You pretty much have a feel of what's gonna happen to which character, but still it still leads to really good surprises. And it was just a really jolly good time. It was a very good way to spend just a few days, like, because it became it was a book I was going to read just by ebook on the computer, but I got hooked and I just wanted to read, and so it became my 24/7 book until I finished it. So that was just a really delightful thing to read. So then I went into more serious mode. I went pretty much into, you know what, let's just read mostly Japanese books this month, other than one Chinese book. And I'm going to start with a Chinese book first. The Chinese book that I read is called Un Paradis, which means A Paradise, by Keyi Sheng. and it's translated by Brigitte Duzon. So this book, as far as I'm aware, has not been translated into English. I'm only aware of this having been translated into French. And this is a book I was very excited about, and is a book that I ended up more or less enjoying reading. I thought it was worth reading, but I have criticisms about it, and it's at the very end, it's not going to have a very long-lasting impression on me. It's not going to carry any weight past. It already hasn't carried that much weight past the end of the end reading date. Basically, what this book is about is this institution in China where the women are getting paid to have children, or to have babies, and their babies are purchased. So basically, a couple reserves a mother, she has their child, and then the child is taken away. So this institution is of all these women there, and they have to, it feels more like a prison, almost like a very low level prison, where the women all have like their own kind of rooms, they have curfews, they can't leave the institution, meals are planned, and they just don't have really any liberties. And obviously, a bunch of women, you know, they get kind of bored, and so they find any way to create entertainment, and also create fun with the like male guards, etc., etc. So it kind of follows that pattern. Now, the thing that's interesting about this story is that little by little, in the book, you're giving hints that this is actually taking place in modern times. So the book was originally published in 2016. And the very first time I noticed it was when basically they mentioned that a character at one point, when I was talking about the character entering the institution, they were carrying an iPhone. So like, okay, this is taking place in our current time. This is not ancient China, basically. And the thing is that that's really important information, but I feel like the book didn't go into that enough for me to be like, to find this book incredibly fascinating or interesting. I think it really should have pushed the whole, what seems like a very ancient, what could be a very ancient practice, and then use that to compare it to modern times. Like, how does this fit into modern times? I feel like it was lacking in that aspect. Things like the one-child policy, it didn't even go into any of that. It didn't mention why modern society, we want these women to have children. Does that mean women in China these days are infertile? Does that mean they don't have the access to IVF? Does that mean women are trying to have children at a later age, which is why they would need this kind of service? It doesn't really go into that. It doesn't really explain the why of this. It just shows women in this institution, and they're sort of battling the fighting, not even fighting like revolting, but just like fighting against the director of this institution. So the thing is that this book could have said so much about modern like Chinese society and women's rights and reproductive rights and things like that, or like just modern career women who don't have the time to get pregnant. Like, it could have said so much about like those kind of things, but it never goes into it. And so that's what I think was lacking about this. Now, the main protagonist of whom this book kind of revolves around is this young girl who is, I'm not going to be politically correct with this because I don't know the politically correct words. She's mentally, a little bit mentally incapacitated, mentally disabled a little bit. I don't know the words. I'm sorry. I don't remember this type of stuff anymore. But she's slow, and so she can't process what's going on to the women around her, and even to her body. She can't process it. She doesn't really understand it. So you revisit a lot of her past and how like people would take advantage of her, and she can kind of get a feel of like what's wrong and what's wrong and what's good, but she struggles with it. So I just like, I liked her as a character. I felt quite a bit of pity for her. I felt bad for her. I felt sad for her. But the book didn't push the boundaries that I wanted this to push. I really wanted it to give this huge insight into contemporary Chinese society when it comes to women having children, and it just didn't go there. So still interesting to read, but I'd rather another book help me out. Anyway, the next book that I read is I read 3 short stories by Shusaku Endo, Shusaku, who is one of the great Japanese writers of, well, his time and of all Japan time. I love Shusaku Endo, and the thing that's interesting about Endo that is what made him such a standout in the Japanese literary world is that he is a Christian. And it's, you know, quite uncommon to find Christian Japanese people, but he was a Christian, and he wrote about it. It's a very strong topic in a lot of his works, including the works in this in here. So I can't tell you if these stories have been translated into English. I'm sure they have. I'm sure they're in some anthology out there. I just don't know where they are. But the first story is called The Shadows, the second story is called The Return, and the third story is called The Last Supper. And these stories just follow Endo's very common themes where he reflects on Christianity. His characters are always in a situation where they are Christian, but they reject it, or they want to reject it, but they always finding themselves coming back. And Endo basically takes that theme and he parallels it to Japan. Sorry, I keep looking at my window because it's getting really gloomy, and I might need to change my outfit if it rains because I'm going out later. But yeah, I'm getting kind of concerned about the weather, and I need to take my sheets in if it does rain. But sorry, to go back to what I'm saying, Endo basically uses that theme and parallels it to Japan, where at this time, we're really talking about, he talks a lot about pre-war Japan and post-war Japan. And basically he's comparing the idea of being a servant of God as a Christian, and he's comparing that as being a servant to Japan as a Japanese person. And so you get those parallels that makes it quite interesting because especially in one particular story, there's a group of people who decide to steal this dog from the yard of his owner because the owner has been very abusive to this dog. And so they feel bad for the dog and they decide to steal it. But they steal it, the dog spends one night with them and then immediately runs away and goes back to that abusive owner. And so Endo reflects on that idea and it's actually the theme, he actually revisits it in the other 2 stories, where it's like, why do we keep going back to our abusers? What is it where we just can't sort of escape them? So the Japanese government using the Japanese people to fight in these wars, to participate in the war, but we're still feeling a sense of pride, and we're still feeling very nationalistic. I think you get the word I'm trying to say. A feeling of nationalism towards our government, even though Japan has put us in a situation that isn't very, very good, along with Christianity, where we are supposed to follow these Christian morals and follow these Christian guidelines, but the priest in the story is rejected from the church because he has had a romantic relationship with a woman, etc. So it's basically just, you find all these parallels between like Christianity and Japan, and the way Endo ties all of that together always leads to very, very interesting stories. So it was really, really great to read these and to revisit Endo because I haven't read him in a while, but definitely an author you should visit if you've never read his works. The next book that I read was called Cowboy by Ishida Ira, translated by Rémi Buquet. And so this book also has not been translated into English. Sorry, pretty much all these books have not been translated. But this book is about the concept of a cowboy or escort, better known almost as a host in Japan. And basically it's this young boy, Ryo, who's 20 years old, and he's just he's pretty much primarily working in the bar. He's been skipping all of his college classes because he just doesn't really find himself interested in anything, nothing Like he's skipping the college classes because he doesn't feel like they need to go there. Like he's not really learning anything. He doesn't know what he wants to learn. He doesn't know what he wants to pursue. And he gets invited to take a test to see if he would be a good cowboy or a good escort. And it turns out he passes the test, not with flying colors, but he does pass the test. And the book basically follows him as he interacts with different women who have very different needs, sexual needs, during this book. So there are a lot of sex scenes in this book, but it didn't feel they didn't really, I wouldn't say they felt too gratuitous. They felt appropriate considering the subject matter. Now, this is the first time I read a book by this author, and I looked up what other books he has written in Japanese, and they're all kind of very sex industry oriented. So this is definitely a topic that this author is very interested in. One of the books is about sort of the sex industry within Akihabara, and like all the girls who stand in front of the station who try to, you know, pick up clients. It's a very big thing. It's actually quite a problem because like high schoolers do it. Yeah, to pick up money, and it's definitely an issue in Japan, where young women sort of have no aversion or like no sense of like they have no problem for some reason selling their body just for money so they can like buy new fashions basically. But in any case, so this author kind of definitely likes the sex industry as a topic for his books. But in this particular one, yeah, Ryo is an escort, and we just kind of go with his sort of paresseux type attitude. Paresseux means sort of like not even like lazy, but just not wanting to participate in things emotionally or physically. You just kind of want to let things go by. But his interactions with these women, we kind of expect there's going to be some influence, that he's going to learn some grand lesson, and that's what you're reading for. And I found myself surprisingly interested in this. I was worried about this because of the sexual nature of the book. I was worried that it was going to be overly gratuitous, that it wasn't going to come up with any sort of moral. Not necessarily that it needs to come up with a moral, but at least it needs to say something, that it's not like showing you sex for the sake of sex. And so it doesn't have to show you a moral, it doesn't have to show something positive. It could show you something negative, but it also doesn't have to show you something negative. It could show something positive. It could show that the sex industry is a good thing. I don't really care either way, but I wanted to have a certain message, or at least to go through an internal discussion about the different aspects of this industry. And I think it really does it quite well. Is it the most fascinating book ever? Is it a must-read book? No, I wouldn't go that far, but I think it is still a very interesting and very well written look at this like more underground part of Japanese society. And I think it's definitely interesting to look at, because there are a few authors that have sort of looked at this topic and discussed certain aspects of this. In the book that I read, Colorful, which, you know, whatever, is not my favorite book, by Itomori, there is one character. She's a high schooler. She's doing sex work just for the money, and she seems to have no care whatsoever. She's like, yeah, I do it for the money. I really don't care. Like, leave me alone. This is what I want to do. Then you have Murakami Ryu, who has written about the underground Tokyo like sex societies or sadomasochist type of societies, and he's gone in the total other direction, where it's super hard, it's super masochistic, and it's very it's like very dangerous, and you really shouldn't go into these societies. And then there's another one where it's basically the sex industry is fully tied into like a murder. Then you have Richard Lloyd Perry. He wrote nonfiction about a British English teacher who was a hostess, and she ended up being murdered by one of her clients. So it's definitely a really good thing to read this book, so you can get all these different like looks at the same industry, and to see like how different people react to it and feel about it, and participate in it. So still worth reading. I enjoyed reading this, but it didn't hit me with like this particular message in either direction, which again is fine. But even if you're gonna do that, I still want it to be a little bit stronger, but still enjoyed this. So yeah, and I really liked, I really thought the translation of the title is very, very clever, because I forgot I was going to prepare this before doing this video, but it is what it is. The original title of this book is Shonen. Shonen is typically just means boy, and it's written with certain kanji. But the shonen of this title, if you look up the original title, the shonen is made up of two Chinese characters, and the original title replaces the first character with another sho, so same reading but different kanji. But it's actually the original character that you use for prostitute, so it shows you that it's a male prostitute, and I thought it was very, very clever. And I was gonna write this down all on paper and show you, so, and it's just not gonna happen, I apologize. But I thought that was really clever. I thought the translation of this was excellent. So that's what I ended up reading this month. Now, as I said, like, all those books were pretty much read in the very first 2 weeks of the month. And then, although I kept reading, my pace dropped, and then I had to plan a vacation, and I'm planning like 2 more vacations right now, and I'm actually kind of stressed about it. I know stressing about a vacation seems silly, but like, you know, booking flights and hotels and all that, it can be, you know, it's stressful. What can I say? It's stressful. So I'm like at the end of 3 books, like I'm almost finished with them, and I was supposed to have finished them, but it just didn't happen. So you will see these books in my October wrap up, but I just want to mention to you at least what I'm currently reading. So I'm at the very end. I'm like 80 pages away from the book Inheritance from Mother by Minae Mizumura, or Mizumura Minae. And yeah, so this is about a woman named Mitsuki and her sister, and they're dealing with the death of their mother, who you would think that's a very sad story, but for them it's a little bit of a good riddance. Like, why could she not die earlier? So it's a book about the relationship between women, their mothers, sisterly love, sister relationships, family relationships, etc., etc. So I'm almost done with that. I have 80 pages left for this one. And then, because I read Cowboy, which is, you know, about an escort, so you're selling your body, I decided to pick up Yukio Mishima's Life for Sale, which is about a man, a 27-year-old male who just decides to sell his life. Not sell his body, but sell his life, which gets him into a lot of weird situations where he puts his life at risk every single time. So I'm almost done with this one as well. But I wanted to read this because I wanted to compare both books and this idea of selling your body, selling your life, selling yourself, basically. How do these 2 authors write about a seemingly similar topic? So really enjoying this. It's very different. I would say it's very different from the typical Mishima that I've read. It almost has a Kobo Abe feel, who is one of my favorite Japanese authors. There's a little bit of like mystery and weird situations with that don't feel like they're real, but turns out they are, etc., etc. So I'm excited to finish this and see where it leads and talk to you about it in the month of October. So excited about that. And then the last book that I'm reading, that is actually the true reason why my reading slowed down in the second half of the month, is I have been reading the Akutagawa Prize winner, the latest Akutagawa Show Prize winner for my latest video. This is the book Hunchback by Ishikawa Sao. And this book has slowed me down so hard because I am struggling to read this. Not because of the topic is fascinating, it's the Japanese. The Japanese is making me struggle so hard. Gosh. But this basically is about a woman. She is, I don't have the words in front of me. I'll definitely make sure I have those words written down when I do my wrap up in October. assuming I finish this. If I have not finished this in October, I'm definitely just gonna like give up on everything. But yeah, I'll try to have those words. But it's a woman who is not, she's in a wheelchair, but it's more than a wheelchair. It's the type of case where I'm not gonna imitate it. What is it? Muscular dystrophy. Your immune system is going against you. Her spine is all crooked. She has a breathing tube that she can't go out. Like basically that level of disability. Like I said, I'll get the words next time I present this. But it's just basically about a woman in that situation who is basically kind of almost like not preaching at us the reader, but like trying to teach us a lesson in this book. And she's doing it by making us struggle. Basically, like the words she chooses, the kanji she chooses, and I can say this with confidence because I even had a Japanese friend read this with me. The word choice that she chooses is a choice, and I really do think it's made to make the reader struggle and to feel the hardships that she goes through. But in any case, I'm reading this right now, and it's, even though the Japanese is not, it's kicking my butt, like the book is interesting and I want to keep reading. So yeah, this is the one that's been slowing me down, because trying to read this, it's like my pace is like non-existent. Like it's not even like 10 pages a day trying to read that. Like seriously, it's bad. It shows that I've been very, very lazy about my Japanese. So anyway, that's what I have been up to in September with my reading. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.